sitting here on the Rich Eisen Show set as the head coach of LSU football, although I should say with the draft in the state of Michigan, the former head coach of Grand Valley State and Central Michigan.
Thank you so much.
Brian
I appreciate
Kelly.
giving the proper due. Detroit was, it got me to where I am today. This state was so good to me with the players that we recruited in particular right here in Detroit itself.
In Detroit.
Yes.
Now, were you going toe-to-toe sometimes with Michigan and Michigan State, same guys?
Not really.
Okay.
I would say the only time there was a little bit of a battle is that I got a chance to recruit Kirk Cousins before he ended up going to Michigan State when I was at Central Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
But he was such a great guy. I think he just gave me lip service when I was at Central Michigan.
He's a nice guy.
He's such a nice guy. So I'll kind of attribute it to that. But there weren't many battles as much as was the opportunity to have really good high school football here. And like I said, my roster was chock full of kids from right here in Detroit.
And it really, I mean, because you're from the Massachusetts area.
Correct.
How did you wind up in the state of Michigan again? I mean,
I took a job at Grand Valley State after leaving state politics. I was working in the State House in Boston and wanted to get back into what I loved, which was football, and took a job at Grand Valley State. And next thing you know, I ended up in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Head coach of football programs is a little political as well, right? You can lean on some of your political leanings from back in the day.
Well, you're recruiting voters all the time.
The ballot box is always open from the fan base as well.
doubt.
And before we get to the here and now, I just want to take a shot. I don't even know the answer to it, and I usually ask questions I know the answer to. Were you at Cincinnati prior to the Kelseys? Were any of the Kelseys there?
I had them both.
You had them both?
I had them both. I recruited Travis. Travis was a quarterback for me. That didn't last very long. As you can imagine, there was a bit of an attention deficit there. Very precocious. So we moved him to tight end. And, Jason was an defensive tackle, and we moved him to offensive center. And obviously, the career obviously speaks for itself. But two great men, and really enjoyed coaching both.
Were you in the Kelseys' living room? Did you go there or no?
I didn't go into the living room for Travis.
Okay.
Jason was already on campus at that time.
Okay.
Travis, we met off campus, but Cleveland Heights is important to them and their family, and they're very strong in their love for the state of Ohio, and it was really good to get both of them.
So you took a defensive tackle and a quarterback and turned them into future Hall of Fame centers and tight ends.
I like the way that story goes. Yeah, I like the embellished end of it.
Take the credit, man.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Sounds good. Brian Kelly here on the Rich Eisen Show. So when did Jayden Daniels first show up on your radar screen? Because you both arrived on campus in the same time.
Well, my time at Notre Dame, we knew him, because we're recruiting all over the country. So
Sure.
I knew him as a high school player in the state of California. He was a heralded player. Obviously went to Arizona State, so I knew of him there. And then kind of followed him at Arizona State. And then clearly when I left to go to LSU, everybody had that COVID interruption. And so
Right.
there was then that opportunity when teams started to kind of look at transferring as an option. It presented itself, and that's when he found himself in the portal. And so I already knew about him and what kind of football player he could be.
Right. And so did he immediately take? I mean, did you see the ascension right then and there, right off the bat?
Well, I saw what a lot of people saw was somebody that was still in that process of developing. Physically, he was a lot thinner than he was today. He's 210 pounds. He was probably in the 175-pound range, so a guy that could be developed. And again, I knew a lot of the people that he had been working out with. They had been trainers and developers of talent that we had taken from before, so I trusted their evaluations of where he was and where he needed to go, and just felt like we had the resources at LSU to develop him as a quarterback because he wanted that. And so I just felt like it was a great match for us.
This past year, I mean, that's the conversation I've been hearing since the Combine, prior to the Combine. And obviously Heisman Trophy weekend helps as well. Just the ascension, the absolute rocket ship from last year to this year, and not as if last year was a slouch in any year as well.
Right.
What do you attribute that to?
Well, I think there's a lot of things there. I think one maybe would be him finally realizing the true potential that was there.
What do you mean by that?
I think there was a transition, coming to a new offense. So there was a lot of ability there that wasn't coming out, and I think we put him in a system that really fit who he was. I think the second thing was he became a decisive person with his maturity, and I think that had to happen over time. And I think the third thing is that he finally went to work on a lot of the weaknesses that he had. He came in first person in the building at 5:30 in the morning and the last person to leave. So there was development. I think there was confidence. And I think that there was a lot of talent there that just needed to open up. And I think that comes sometimes with just maturity.
So how is this going to translate to the next level?
Oh, I think it just continues to grow. I think he is a unique talent. I've seen so many over 33 years of being a head football coach that, the things that he has done on the field, just a couple of examples. I mean, he's thrown a total of 20 interceptions, over 1,400 attempts. I mean, that's like one every couple of games. I mean, that's over 5 years. And he's just so good with the football. He's so careful with what he does and so thoughtful, but yet can be one of the most accurate throwers off platform, getting out of the pocket, and the best deep ball thrower. So he can make the big plays, but yet he's not sloppy with the football. So there's some real high markers there that for me as a football coach, when I watch quarterbacks and have been with quarterbacks, he really checks a box for me.
And where's he going?
Look, I've talked to all the GMs, as you can imagine. I will tell you that all of them, feel strongly about his ability.
Right.
If I was to guess right now, I would say that, Chicago's made their decision with Caleb, and that, he slots right now to go to Washington. But I clearly know that Drake May is highly coveted as well. I think it's a 1-2-3 battle for those spots. Yeah. And, from there, I think McCarthy fits in there as well. I think he's highly regarded. Right. I think I was saying before we went on the air to Greeny and Reese, I like them all. When I'm watching him as a football coach, Nix and Penix, there's some really good quarterbacks in this draft. It's a unique draft.
Well, all of us in our industry are saying that he's going to Washington because you said he's going to Washington.
Yeah, now it's going to be out there, right? To me, I think it's much more about where does it logically look to take quarterbacks at this time. You don't get many chances at a guy like this, and it just makes sense. I have no firsthand knowledge of it. Okay. I do not. I have no firsthand knowledge other than meeting with GMs just like everybody else has. Okay. But they have not given me any firsthand information that they're taking him.
Okay. Just wanted to clear that up because, there's a lot of chatter that's going on in this. We're just looking for anything right now.
No.
We're ready for the draft ahead here.
This will still be about what decision needs to be made in terms of, what's the next quarterback? Who do you embrace? Beauty is still in the eye of the beholder when it comes to quarterbacks.
Who is Malik Nabers? Tell me about him, because there's so much of a conversation about him physically being better than Marvin Harrison Jr. and also just whether he's a good fit for certain organizations, personality-wise. What can you tell me about him?
To me, I love his personality. He's such a competitor. The one thing that I think separates him is his versatility. He can play in the slot. He can play out at the X. He can play into the boundary as a singled up receiver. He has the ability to beat one-on-one coverage, and obviously his ability to run after the catch and his explosiveness. But I think the best thing about him is who he is as a competitor. He loves to compete. In practice, he's diving for balls in the red zone in one-on-one. There's never a time that he doesn't want to compete.
Do you tell him to dial it back? when he's doing it?
Yeah, I try to, but sometimes with these ultra-competitive kids, it doesn't matter. They want to win the drill. And, we played in the bowl game, and he played in the bowl game. I mean, when so many kids, choose not to play in these bowl games, he wanted to play in the bowl game. And I just think that says a lot about a guy that understands competition and team and how that importance is to him. And that's what you're going to get with Malik Nabers.
Well, where do you think he's going?
I mean, if he makes it past number 6, I'd be very surprised. But again, I don't have any firsthand knowledge other than talking to schools or programs, that are very, very, I think, committed to that kind of player. And I know New York really, really likes him in his makeup.
Okay, and I mean, obviously, I know you're biased, but I'll still ask the question anyway. Pound the table for him to go the first receiver. I mean.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think, how do you go wrong with a Marvin Harrison or a Malik Nabers? They complement what is on your roster, so you can't double one of them. Whoever that other NFL player is on your roster,
right,
who's going to be a big-time player, you can't double them, because now whoever gets doubled, the other guy is going to tear you up on the other side. So either one of those guys, wherever they go, complement that roster so well. So I just don't think that there's that much of a difference between the two. They're both premier players. I think if either one of them fell to either NFL team, they're going to be high-fiving in that draft room no matter who it is.
LSU head coach Brian Kelly here on the Rich Eisen Show, and then Brian Thomas Jr. Obviously lost amongst all of this burning spotlight for these two kids that we just discussed right here. I'll give you the floor on him.
Well, ascending in my eyes, long, athletic, and he's not a guy that just runs the 9 route. I mean, everybody kind of looks at him as a deep ball threat, but elusiveness, difficult to bring down. I think a couple of times people talk about maybe a drop here or there. Those are focus drops. Those aren't. He doesn't have great hands. He will make the acrobatic catch down the field, and he will be another nightmare matchup for anybody when the ball is thrown down the field. And I think he's only going to get better.
Yeah, I think he's gonna hear his name called tonight. I think
I do too. I think
you do believe that, right?
I really truly believe it, based upon conversations that I have, that he will be a first rounder as well.
Would you please share with me, who did you have these conversations with? Because I'm sure tons of fans would love to know about this kid too.
I don't think he gets past the mark of Philadelphia, for example,
where they're currently sitting right now.
Yeah, I don't think it gets any deeper than that. But that's the kind of player he is. He's gonna be available. No deeper than that, and maybe somebody says, you know what, we need this guy on our roster, and he goes sooner.
Before I let you go, Brian Kelly, do you think college football is going to a Super League? Do you think one day we're going to be there? I know that's a big macro question to hit you with as I send you out on your draft day door, but do you think we're going in that direction?
Here's what I know. College football is as healthy as it's ever been as it relates to the popularity of the game.
That's true.
The issues are governance and rules, and so the league, to me, is not the most important thing. It's how do we continue to find ways to take care of those that are at the center of this game, and that's the student athletes.
Right, and the issue is, though, is in order to get to those rules where there is some regular playing field or normal leveling of a playing field for rules to be made, not only for the protection of the student athletes who are being told things that don't sometimes come true based on NIL conversations that have nothing to do with you as a head coach.
Correct.
And so you as a head coach also want the rules to level the playing field for you when you're going to recruit and try and figure stuff out. The way to get to that is to have a smaller group of like-minded or similar needy in terms of getting those questions answered with the same economic stresses and or riches together. That's where the Super League comes in. You know what I mean?
Yes, conceptually, I think that is one way to look at it, or it can be the AFC and the NFC. It could be 2, it could be 3 that all share a same common denominator, and that's how we do business.
Correct.
And so yes, it's going to go that way. It has to go that way, because right now we can't operate the way we're operating because there are simply, well, there are no rules relative to salary cap, poaching, scheduling,
Right.
all of those things. So we'll have to get there, and that's the most important thing right now in front of college football.
Good to see you, Brian Kelly.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me
Enjoy
on.
tonight. So you're going to be in the green room tonight?
Yeah, I'm going to be on College Game Day.
Oh, cool.
With
great.
the guys for a little bit.
So you're working some TV tonight?
I'll do a little TV tonight, and then I'll go into the green room with the guys and be the biggest cheerleader.
Enjoy it.
Thank you.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.